All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Regio Tejano podcast. And today I got a special guest from Colombia, correct? Her name is
What's up?
Jenny Luz. Jenny Luz, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenny Luz, and I originally live in New York City. I was born and raised there, and now I moved to Colombia. So I've been here recently.
Okay, okay. And I was just wondering if you could tell people a little bit about your story and tell them a little bit about some of the cool things that you do with the design and the jewelry that you got going on.
Cool. Well, first and foremost, so I was a self-taught designer. Like one day I just picked up the sewing machine when I was a little kid. And my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was 8 years old. She freaked out. You know how our madres be, "Cuidado con eso, se va a sacar un ojo." And I'm like, "Mom," I don't know what I told her, but I was making like Barbie dresses and stuff like that. So it was kind of like something that I was born with. Originally, my parents actually migrated from Colombia to live in New York, not really to have like a better quality of life, but just to have like a new lifestyle. It was kind of like the thing back in like the 70s to do, and to just like, go to a different place to work and make that dollar. And then, of course, I was born after that. I grew up loving to like make arts and crafts since I was a little kid. And eventually, when I got into high school, I was like selling it on the side, and all my friends they were really excited. They promoted me a lot. Even strangers promoted me. I believe that most of my entrepreneurism definitely came from when I was way younger. I learned a lot from just being an inner city kid from growing up in New York, because, like I said, I used to live in New York. And growing up in basically like the Midtown area, which is where my concentration of upbringing was at. And when you live in New York, it's very rough. You have to have tough skin, and it's like kind of like survival of the fittest. And you I would love to go to school. I wasn't like the other kids. I wanted to cut school all the time, but I was definitely like involved in everything. I was a part of student leadership, and I always wanted to help my classmates, just in whatever they needed as far as like supplies and just having a good time in school. So like I was a part of the student leadership program for my whole high school time. And what we mostly did is like get all the parties together, get things that, that our classmates needed. We were like that group that would make things happen. So that leadership also grew a lot in me. That was instilled in me from my parents, from being, very Latino and strong, and growing up with that tough, like which is funny because now there's something called like like the chancletaism, which is growing up with like the chancleta. When you were a kid, it was like, you did something bad, you get either a pela or you get like warnings to like, we're going to ship you back to Colombia, or we're going to ship you overseas and you're not going to see your friends anymore. And I remember that always being like, like, oh my God, I don't want to go and live over there. I don't know anybody over there, which is funny because now that I live here, it's a whole different transition. But, back to like the culture and growing up and seeing like my aunts and my mother be a part of like that crafting, type of lifestyle, but also being very driven and working all the time and being breadwinners, as far as like my father, who was also in the picture. My parents are still together 40 years. And seeing that with big families, because my parents both came from big families. My mom came from a family of 10, and my dad came from a family of 14. I was an only child. So it was like, I had to get it right or die because they weren't having it. So, that pushed me a lot, being Latina, and growing up in the inner city definitely pushed me a lot to be very strong, committed, courageous, and above all, just like never look back, which is what says in the article that was put in Girl Table that you were able to read on. That's girltable.com, and you can find me there, Jenny Luce. But other than that, basically now living here, it's a different transition, a huge impact, because you go from like being very free, in the US, and expressing yourself and going through like schooling, and I went to college, I worked in corporate, I worked in hospitality, which I actually love, which I still work in. And I also worked as a social worker, and in a brief moment of time, because I graduated from John Jay College. And in John Jay College, I took up public administration and sociology. So I said, you know what, let's see what I get after I get out of college. And I I graduated, and my first job was to be a social worker for an agency, a nonprofit agency that worked with ACS. And ACS is basically the group that if they call your house for truancy when you're a kid under the age of 18, or you get in any trouble, there's medical issues, just anything with your child, they go to your house, they send you a case planner, and then they basically decide if it's okay for you to keep your kid. So that I would come in, which is basically like this, what we would consider the second chance program, which is really hard to say, but then I would come in and I would help them with entitlements and, anything they needed as far as pantry, food, which is huge things that right now we're facing during
Yeah.
this time with the pandemic and COVID. So like my whole life has been almost like, it's funny, sometimes I think like, oh my God, I was already prepared for this moment with what's going on, but also, everything in a nutshell, just like growing up in the inner city, right now with Black Lives Matter, I grew up across the street from projects in the city, and all my friends were from all different races. Like I didn't see color, like color wasn't like a thing for me. Everybody was like my almost like my brother and my sister, because I was like an only child. So they were like the people that I would like trust in. And we never saw color. Like we didn't grow up like that. So when I got my first career job, it was very awakening, because I was able to see like the real struggles of like, the system and how they got us all locked down and how it's a cycle. And, it was very impacting for me, as like it being my first career, and being somebody that was from, even though I came from a strong family, we all know that Latinas, we are very sheltered. So my parents sheltered me, a lot when I was a kid, like that's why I never cut school. I was a straight edge kid, but, I hung out everywhere. Like I was just a part of the it crew. Like I used to, be, I used to love to just be a part of like the groups and making things happen. Um, so being that I got into this career was like total, like a dark side, like a different side that I hadn't seen. And I worked for a while, and I really loved it, and I felt like it was something that was meant for me at the moment. Definitely made me definitely more mature, working with all the families. I was the only Spanish speaking case planner
No
that
way.
had 19 families. And one of my families, she's Mexican, and she had 16 kids. And so I
Okay.
had
A
to
lot.
deal with all of that too.
Yeah.
So behind like the article that you read, there's just so many other things that are tied into the now. So eventually I came back out to Colombia after working, before I worked corporate. After working corporate, then I started my own company back in 2013, Design for Love and Marnie J. So what I did with that was I just like, it was just an explosion of everything that I had like recollected, as far as like my you know, the strong upbringing as a woman and being like free and just freedom of expression. So I used a lot of color, and I actually used a lot of army fatigue, which, you know, is very like, you know, how we would call like revolutionary. So this was back in 2013, and it just kept growing consistently. It was leggings, it was the athleisure. I did men's jogging wear, I did swimwear, I did athleisure wear for women. I also did dresses. And then I decided, after all of that work in New York, and the couple of runway shows that I had done, and the little pop-up shops, had also distributed my brand in different little boutiques throughout like all the boroughs in New York. I just say, you know what, I want to move to Colombia. I want to see what's going on in the place where my family's from. I want to learn some more, and I just want to see if I can do it out there, like see what it's all about. You know, I'm from New York, but even if you're like from anywhere, you can make it anywhere. Like if you got it, you got it. So I came back. I decided to come back or come here after all the times that I had came and visited, and I finally decided to stay. And honestly, it's, with what's going on right now, it's just been a very big blessing. Complete culture shock though when I first started like living here. You know, it's like it's lots of classism. I would say there's more classism than a bit of racism, you know. So that in a nutshell is where we're at from the beginning to the end.
That's dope though. I really I appreciate you sharing that story. And there's a lot of things I found very interesting. When you were working as a social worker and then you went to designing, did a lot of that influence like some of the designs that you made?
I believe subconsciously it did. You know, as far as like I was saying, using the army fatigue, even though at that moment it became what was going to trend, like as a fashion forecaster, I knew that that was going to trend. I knew that, you know, fatigue was going to be the next big thing and the next new thing. It was going to be, you know, something that was more accepted. Because, you know, back in the days, if you use army fatigue in Colombia, you were like military. It's like, wait, why are you using army fatigue? You know, and a lot of places it wasn't accepted. So it finally became, you know, hidden towards mainstream. And it really reached mainstream in the past 5 years. But I'm talking about 2013, that's, you know, more than 5 years ago that I was like pushing it.
Yeah, ahead of your time. I mean, that's dope. I mean, I thought that's pretty cool. And I can definitely relate to you being a social worker because I work as a teacher. So, I mean, a lot of the same stuff that you see, like I see
So
too, you know, I see that every day, like with the kids and, you know, parents struggling and all that. So I definitely think that's dope. And I appreciate you telling your story and talking about some of the designs that you made. Also, one of the questions I had was, what's something that inspired you or made you want to design your own clothes? Was that something that was just with you since you were a little kid, or did you see something that maybe got you inspired to want to make your own clothes?
yeah, I think that it was just, you know, I grew up with the Barbies. My parents got me Barbies when I was kids. When I was a kid, I had Cabbage Patch dolls, and at times that maybe I wanted to have clothes for them, but I didn't have clothes for them, and I imagined to have like all these beautiful dresses that I could get in like Toys R Us, you know, for my dolls. Back when Toys R Us was like everywhere, because now it's like, where's Toys R Us?
Yeah, it
Online.
disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like everywhere
I
here.
remember that. Yeah,
So,
I remember them
you know,
days.
I mean, I was just like, you know what? If I can't have it, let me just make it. So I started making them as a kid, and then it just became like a passion. Like it was in me. Like every time I just wanted to dress different. I wanted something different. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be unique. That's kind of like what in a nutshell. And then eventually when I hit like 29, I was like, you know what? I'm 29. I have all this love in me for and passion for designing and doing all this. let me just do it. And that's when I went gun ho. I went straight in.
Oh, that's amazing. Were there any obstacles that you faced when you first got started? Like,
Yeah, there was many obstacles.
yeah, like, cause I know like a lot of people when they're starting their own business, they might not know what questions to ask or how to do things. Like, or what are some of the things that you did to overcome some of those obstacles?
It was definitely hard, especially in like the fashion business. You know, not everybody opens their doors for you or lets you know how to get in. So you definitely have to, you know, just hustle your way in and just do what you want to do freely and express yourself. And then if it hits, it's a hitter. As far as building the business, yeah, you encounter things like, you know, money situations, as far as like you know, your capital, where you're going to get your supply, you know, how much demand there is for that, you know, how, you know, your competition that goes into play, your marketing scheme, you know, all of that is, it's, I wouldn't say that it's like an obstacle, but it definitely, you know, when you don't know about it and you're first starting it, you're not thinking correctly. You're just like, I want to do it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm making this happen. And sometimes you fall short from researching everything. So, you know, it's a work in progress.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot of information. That's good to know, definitely. Um, so then you said that you wanted once you were doing your thing over to New York, you decided that you just want to go back to Colombia. So what were some of the things that made you want to come back to Colombia?
Number one was definitely family. Like, I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to get to know more of my family members that I hadn't known because you know, I grew up out there and everybody was over here. My culture, I wanted to dive in. I wanted to get to know, you know, people, how people were, you know, how people communicated, you know, as far like we could speak in English and then we could be speaking in Spanish, but it's a whole different vibe, you know what I mean? Especially
Yeah.
like where you come from, the people you deal with. And yeah, I just wanted to see this side of the world.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know a lot of people that are just ready to move out of this country, especially with the crazy president that we got and everything. I know a lot of
Yeah, I
people.
came at the good time. I came at the good time.
Exactly, you came at the perfect time because it's crazy out here. But so when you moved to Colombia, was it hard to transition to I mean, I know it's like the motherland, but was it hard to like to after growing up here in the US, was it hard to go back, to go to
Um,
Colombia and
a
to live?
part of it wasn't so hard because my parents had brought me here since I was a little kid. You know, so I do advise, I'm not a parent yet, but I do advise all parents, take your kids, you know, back to your roots when they're little so that they can, like, you know, if they like it, they'll like maybe eventually want to go back or check it out. I used to come here often. I loved it since I was a kid. I always used to have a good time. My family was out here. I always used to meet my family. My little cousins always used to introduce me to friends. So I wasn't like so hesitant to jump into coming back. Um, Definitely, you know, it was hard, just like, you know, like getting in, because like all cultures are different. So it's like I might be, because I'm from New York, like I said, we're kind of like a little rough around the edges. So it's like, as a female, you definitely got to tone it down a little when you're, you know, it's very feminine, you know, live in a masculine society, which is what I also expressed in my article. Um, and then, like I said, there's a lot of classism. So, you know, seeing that, you know, when I grew up in like the melting pot, I grew up around all different types of social classes, you know, and I worked hard all my life. So, you know, I started working since I was 14. So that also is very different from the culture, you know, here. So I was like, what am I get at first I was like, what am I getting myself into? You know, but then I was like, I gotta dive in. I gotta see what's up. So definitely like a huge difference in many aspects that were a little difficult to sort of navigate through.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing that because I know a lot of people. I know several people that they decided to move back to Mexico, so they went to like Monterrey, which is the northern Mexico. And one of the things that they said was kind of hard for them to transition was like the cat calling because in Mexico like it's more I don't know I guess like out here in the U.S. I guess people don't well I mean in the South like in Houston people don't really talk to each other like they don't like people are I guess more sensitive when you approach them like you don't come correct people will call you out like they'll be like hey I feel uncomfortable and like go away and in Mexico it's
Yeah.
not like that people are more like kind of more like they'll
Well,
get in your personal
Americans
space.
are very expressive. They say it
Yeah.
how it is. It's
Yeah.
more of like an American thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she got there, like there's a lot of people like the cat con, they would just keep bugging her and you know, I
Like
don't
I
know.
was saying,
Yeah.
it's a very machista, very, type of society.
Man. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, for me, like I'm a dude, so I mean, I don't see that, but I mean
You
it's
see
good.
it totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to hear from a female perspective because that makes me more conscious of like, okay, wow, it's different. I know it's harder for you guys whenever you guys go abroad as it is for us, because for us it might just be somebody might just want to fight you just because you're from the United States and they think you're rich. And like, when you for females, I know it's like a different, like they could just get a different type of vibe. But that's pretty cool. And I know Colombia is a beautiful country. I've seen a lot of pictures. I have a lot of friends that are from Colombia. A lot of people go back and forth to Colombia. And I was just
Yeah.
wondering if you could tell us about some of your favorite places or favorite spots or things to do when you're in Colombia.
Definitely the best thing to do out here is eat. The food is great. All the food around every single like territory is different. The views are spectacular. Places that I would go, I mean, definitely Medellin. All of the hot springs. There's a place called Crystal Lakes. That the lakes are they're like blue, purple, green, and it's just like you just dive in, and it's only seasonal because sometimes the water just, it's like drier, it's more hollow. So, what else? Definitely Bogota to like visit the whole city and the outskirts. I mean, I can't tell you really specifically because the whole country is ridiculous. Of course, like visit all the major cities because that's important, like Medellin, Bogota, and Cartagena or the coast of San Andres, even though Cartagena is obviously more of a tourism spot because there are spots that are very, like there's still not no paved roads, but it's beautiful. The Amazon, we have a part of the Amazon here, so I definitely recommend that. And what I do recommend is just to have a good time. Don't think about, I would not think about money when you come here if you're coming from the US and you earn, American dollars because it does go a long way. You just got to keep up with the currency rate and that's it. But everything in a nutshell is just like the culture, the people are beautiful as far as like the way that they open their arms to you. And it's a place where everybody's very respected as far as like family wise. And I mean, yeah, that cat, like you were saying, that cat calling sometimes happens, but usually it depends on where you are too. It depends on like the neighborhood or the area. So but yeah, all around it's just beautiful. It's just so lush. You have both of the Atlantic and the Pacific. You have islands, you have mountaintops. um there's just so many different beautiful places, and all the hidden cities. We have hidden cities that are beautiful too.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And like I said, like here in Houston and a part of Mexico, my family's from Monterrey. Like they love Colombia. Like anything Colombia is like they buy it. Cause I don't know if you ever heard of the Colombianos from Mexico. Like it's like a group of like it's kind of like these cholo thugs, but like they dress like punk rockers and they jam nothing but
I
cool.
didn't know. Nah,
Yeah, I
you
don't know
need
if
to
you heard
put
about
me
it.
on.
They got a movie on Netflix called Ya no estoy aquí, and it's about that culture. It's like that's like the part of Mexico my family's from, and like every time I go
Oh
to
wait, what is
Mexico,
it called?
ya no estoy aquí.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like every time I go to Monterrey, like, cause you know my friend, they're from the hood out there in Monterrey, so it's like every time we go out there, man, you'll see like everything Colombia, like Colombia jerseys, little wristbands with the cup, the flag, cause everybody that's like the style out there, like that's what they love out there, you know. So I mean,
Yeah.
I know Colombia is pretty dope. Like a lot of people like that's where everybody wants to go right now. That's like what's in, you
We
know.
had to take off our wristbands because of COVID.
Oh, y'all can't wear wristbands out there?
Yeah, there was like a whole like a campaign for it too, like quítate la, what is it called? La manilla.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Rompamos las manillas. There was like this whole like
Oh man.
campaign for it. Yeah.
How is it right now with COVID? Is everybody like masking up? Are they taking care of themselves?
Oh yeah, it's super serious out here. No
Oh,
one's
man.
really taking it as a joke, and everybody takes it really serious here because Colombia is a very moralist society where everybody loves to follow, properly what's right. Like people are religious or people are spiritual or they're just like centered or they're very about like family traditions and all of that comes into play with just abiding by the law and not sinning and things like that. And people worry about their family members because a lot of people, in our countries and especially too in Colombia, they rely on some people rely on their family members. Whether it's like your sister, your hermana, your abuela, your cousin, somebody else that's working to help out the family, anything. So people are very conscious of that and they're not playing games. You go out here and it's like mask city all the time, but we also have strict rules. Like there's definitely quarantines and curfews and not playing. Like a lot of the stuff that you do see on social media is true. Like as far as like at nighttime, the leftist groups coming out to like, get rid of people who are, not doing right by the curfew. Like that's all true. The police is out there, the military's out there, and there's leftist groups out there making sure that nobody's running the streets and,
Wow.
infecting people.
Well, I mean that's refreshing because I'm in Houston where it's like Houston's pretty like it's kind of liberal, but outside like as soon as you step outside the city, it's like Trump Central. So man, it's like very difficult. Like there's certain places that I'll go to the mall over here, and it'll be like in a kind of like in a in a more like in a different neighborhood, um, and like a more suburban neighborhood, and nobody will wear a mask. Like until now, like recently, they're making everybody wear masks, but you got a lot of these Trumpers, man, my rights, my rules, and it's like it's just a headache dealing with all them people out here. It's like man, a lot of people just refuse
Yeah,
to
like
wear it.
it's so crazy to see it from like the outside.
I bet.
Like when I see what's going on over there, I'm like, holy cow, it's so different from what's going on out here.
Yeah, I bet. I bet you it looks just crazy because it is, but that's definitely dope. And I was wondering if you could tell people where they can find your designs at, like, and buy some of the products that you sell.
Oh yeah, so currently I'm doing jewelry, which I got into, which was also a part of all of like the collections. And now I'm doing it more based on like nature. So I got like involved with like crystals and stones and like different things from Colombia that I've been hand making out here. So currently, I'm releasing everything. So you can find them on Instagram at my Instagram at Designs for Love, which is DESIGNED Design for Love. And that's where you can find me. I usually update there. I don't currently have the boutique up because everything is custom and everything is one of one. So I release it through my Instagram. And eventually I might have a boutique, but not right now because, the whole COVID thing is happening. And, I'm like, literally, I'm just absorbing what everything is going on as far as like this and seeing how it's going to take me into a different creative process.
Okay, definitely. And
So
I'll put the
design
link on there
for
too.
love, be loose.
Okay. I'll put your Instagram
Thank
link
you.
and I'll put the what's it called, the website link on there as well. So that way
Dope.
people can access it, both of them.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, sharing your story, telling us your story, inspiring us to, start a business, and just thank you for your
Do it. You
time.
gotta take risks. You gotta do it. If you've been thinking about it since you was a kid and you got it in you, like do it. I tell everybody, just go hard. Just do it.
And especially now's the time. I know a lot of people like they're losing their jobs and stuff like that. Now's the time to, if they want to switch career, maybe this is a good time to switch career and maybe improve
Yeah,
themselves.
100%. And even if you don't want to switch your career, just pick up your hobby or like a lot, work on it and see if people tell you, hey, it's nice and I like it, try to sell it, see where it gets you, and maybe it's in you. Maybe the entrepreneurism is in you. I mean, I believe it's in everybody. I believe everybody has some type of little creativity or something that they're really talented at. So, it's the time to expose it is definitely now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Nathan.